To order. Will the Secretary please call roll?
Eric Alderetti.
Here.
Phil Becerra.
Here.
Cynthia Contreras-Leo.
Here.
Mark McLaughlin.
Here.
Beatrice Mendoza.
Here.
Ken Nguyen.
Here.
Lynette Verino.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Will you all stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Ready to begin. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So that mic is already on? Okay. We have a couple of presentations that we're going to be making this evening in recognition for our two former planning commissioners, and so I'd like to have Mr. Jim Gardner meet me over at the mic.
Hey, thanks. See you.
So I'm going to read this proclamation, and Jim and I have served on the Planning Commission for just a couple of years, but it has been a pleasure working with you.
Same here.
So I'd just like to say that before I read this. So this proclamation is given to James Gardner, who has provided over 14 years of valued service to the City of Santa Ana in his capacity for 4 terms as a Planning Commissioner. And that's a lot of years, so I don't know that you want me to read exactly all those years, but 14 in total.
Before my hair was gray.
Is that what we did to you?
That's a new blonde now. New blonde.
So whereas James Gardner has exhibited exemplary leadership and civic responsibility through his tenure as a valued member of the Planning Commission, including his role as Planning Commission Chairman from 2015 to 2016. Whereas James Gardner has recognized the importance of maintaining a high standard of design in the City of Santa Ana by serving on the Planning Commission Design Review Subcommittee. And I think that was our first round of Design Review Subcommittee. Whereas James Gardner has demonstrated a strong commitment to the residents and business community of Santa Ana in his interactions with the public. Whereas James Gardner has been a key participant in the development of Santa Ana as a center of economic prosperity, has been a key participant in award-winning projects including Triada Development, the Harbor Mixed-Use Transit Corridor Specific Plan, and the Santa Ana Complete Streets Plan, and over his 3 terms played a major role in other projects such as the Essex Skyline Towers, the 301, the Madison, the 1901, and Heritage Village. Whew. Yeah, that's a lot. 14 years, that's a lot going on there. And whereas James Gardner's a respectful composure has been an inspiration to the Planning Commission. Be it therefore resolved that we, the members of the Planning Commission of the City of Santa Ana, and the staff of the Planning and Building Agency do hereby acknowledge and honor James Gardner for his years of dedicated leadership and outstanding commitment to the cause of planning and development for the community of Santa Ana, California.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank everybody. I've enjoyed being on the Planning Commission, and this month is my 30th year in business in Santa Ana. So just about half of it's been on Planning Commission. I started in Santa Ana. This is my wife, Nancy Gardner, and we met in Montana, and she followed me down here, and she helps us with our business together, work together. So it's been great. Thanks very much. Welcome to the new Planning Commissioners. Now I get Mondays off every other week. So, thanks.
You're always welcome to come back on Mondays.
I'll come in for some free advice.
Okay, very good. And our next proclamation is for Bruce Bauer. Also a pleasure serving with you, Bruce.
Yes,
in
likewise.
My capacity. And so proclamation, excuse my eyesight's getting a little worse as I get older. Yeah, I'm going to need those soon. Whereas Bruce Bauer has provided 3 years of valued service to the City of Santa Ana in his capacity for a partial term as a Planning Commissioner from 2014 to 2016. Whereas Bruce Bauer has exhibited exemplary leadership and civic responsibility through his tenure as a valued member of the Planning Commission, including his role as Planning Commission Vice Chairman during 2016. I'll miss you having by my side. Whereas Bruce Bauer recognized the importance of maintaining a high standard of design in the city of Santa Ana by serving on the Planning Commission Design Review Subcommittee. Whereas Bruce Bauer has demonstrated a strong commitment to the residents and business community of Santa Ana in his interactions with the public. And whereas Bruce Bauer has been a key participant in the development of Santa Ana as a center for economic prosperity and has been a key participant in several significant projects, including Heritage Village mixed-use development, the 1901 residential development, and the Modern Day Expansion Project. And whereas Bruce Bauer has been an inspiration to the Planning Commission. Be it therefore resolved that we, the members of the Planning Commission of the City of Santa Ana, and the staff of the Planning and Building Agency do hereby acknowledge and honor Bruce Bauer for his years of dedicated leadership and outstanding commitment to the cause of planning and development for the community of Santa Ana, California. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I really want to thank the staff in the planning department. When I came on to the planning commission, I really didn't know what it really was all about, and you kind of endured me and educated me along the way. And I really want to thank the colleagues. I know we always haven't agreed on everything, but I've appreciated the professionalism that is exhibited on a daily basis during the meetings, and that we remain friends, and that's important to me. And welcome aboard to the new commissioners as well. Thank you very much.
Okay, back to this other mic. So, thank you. This is the time for public comments, and does any member of the public have any public comments on non-agenda items? If so, you may fill out a request to speak form with the secretary, and after introduction, have 3 minutes to speak unless an extension of time is granted by the chairperson. Let's see. I have one speaker card, but that's on an agendized item. Anybody want to speak on non-agendized items? Okay, thank you. Then we will move on to the consent calendar. And do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
Motion approved. Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Let's move on to communication disclosure. And do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to items on tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, I'm currently served as the chair of the Major Field Citizens Committee of Santa College that relate to the letter of support by Rancho Santa Community College District on the project on item number 2. I would like to disclose that.
Thank you, Commissioner Nguyen. Commissioner Contreras-Leal?
Yes, I'd like to speak in regards to item 5. The Parks and Recreation is wanting to create open space of the properties that are on the corner of Raitt and Myrtle. I have some concerns in regards to that concept.
Did you have any conversations with anyone
No.
regarding that agenda item? Okay, then we'll go ahead and
Later
save
on.
your comments until we get to item number
Okay.
5. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's it for disclosures. So we will now move into public hearings. And so we have item number 1 is the public hearing, conditional use permit number 2016-26. And this was an item that was continued from the November 28th Planning Commission meeting.
Yes, the applicant has requested that that item be continued to a date uncertain.
Okay. So the recommended action now is to continue the matter to an undetermined date.
That's correct.
Do I have a motion on that?
So moved. Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any? Sorry. I lost my voice there. No disapprovals. So let's move on to item number 2, which is the public hearing for conditional use permit 2016-48 and variance number 2016-08.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This is a request by McDonald's for a reconstruction of an existing McDonald's restaurant on 1501 North Bristol Street. The action in front of you tonight is a conditional use permit for the drive-through window service and a variance for a reduction in parking and the loading requirement. The proposal is for a new 4,000 square foot McDonald's restaurant at this location with drive-through window service, which will replace the existing smaller McDonald's. They have drive-through window service currently. A total of 37 parking spaces will be provided, and the hours of operation will be from 6 a.m. to 12 a.m., 7 days a week. A conditional use permit is required for the drive-through window service in the SP1, the Bristol Corridor Specific Plan. A variance is required for the reduction in the parking and modification to the loading requirements. Here's an image of the project site. The project site is located between Washington Avenue and 17th Street on the east side of Bristol. It is zoned SP1, which is the Bristol Corridor Specific Plan, is surrounded by Santa Ana College across the street, as you can see on the image, and residential to the east, which is the Washington Square neighborhood, and commercial uses to the north and to the south. Here's the image of the current McDonald's restaurant, which is very traditional. Here's the site plan. The existing McDonald's restaurant, which is located on the south side of the project site, will be demolished as part of the Bristol widening, and the new restaurant will be positioned on the north side, parallel to Bristol Street. You can see the footprint of the restaurant with double drive-through. Here's the floor plan. Here's the elevations. As you can see on the bottom, that will be the what you see on Bristol Street with the drive-through lane and with the McDonald's standard parapet and a porte-cochere to cover the drive-through windows. And the image on top is the main elevation, which is the main entrance, faces south. Here's another image of the elevations. The top one is facing the residential neighborhood, and the other one is facing the north. This proposed restaurant will, with drive-through window service, meets all of the requirements except for the parking and the loading requirements, which they're trying to get on variance. And with regards to the landscaping, setbacks, and signage, they will be in compliance with the current city, state, and any applicable codes. The proposed project definitely will provide a well-maintained and operated service to the city and to the surrounding communities, as well as any travelers along Bristol Street. The proposed project definitely will support the goals and the policies identified in the city's general plan. We are recommending approval of the proposed conditional use permit number 2016-48 and variance number 2016-8 as conditioned. This concludes staff's presentation.
Are there any commissioner questions for staff? Commissioner Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What does the T represent on the northeast corner of the site plan?
Let me go back to the slide. Which one?
I'm sorry, I meant northwest
The
corner
northwest corner.
on the site plan. On that very lower right, or lower left-hand side. What is that? I didn't see it in the legend.
Let me take a look. That's a transformer.
A transformer? Okay. And then my other question is, will there be ivy or some sort of vines along the walls on the interior?
Yes.
On all three sides?
Yes.
Okay.
The interior of the transformer or the interior of the project site?
Project site, the
Yes.
perimeter walls?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's a requirement.
Any other questions? Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna, before we open the public hearing, I want to read my public hearing disclosure that I forgot to read a little bit ago. This is the time and place for the public hearing on item number 2 for the McDonald's. And what is the address? Well, I'm going to just say conditional use permit 2016-48 and variance number 2016-08. If you wish to address the Planning Commission, please file a request to speak form with the Secretary. Comments that are limited to 3 minutes unless an extension of time is granted by the chairperson. And I think that our timer will be Mr. Ali. And he will advise, if you are speaking, he will advise when your 3 minutes is up, since we don't have our typical lights, red lights to motion for the timing. The action of the Planning Commission is final following consent of the City Council unless, if allowed by the Santa Ana Municipal Code, an appeal to the City Council is filed with the Clerk of the Council, and a copy is sent to the Planning Department within 10 days from the date of the Commission's action, or unless set for public hearing by the City Council. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communications?
The written communications was received from the Washington Square Neighborhood Association in support and from the Rancho Santiago Community College District, just requesting that they just note that they do not have any comments on the project.
Excellent. I think we all have a copy of those two as well. So we will go ahead and open up the public hearing. And I don't have any speaker cards for agenda item number 2. Is there anyone in the public that would like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for any comments, and I'll entertain a motion. Oh, I'm sorry, do we have a speaker?
Yes.
Oh.
Good evening.
Hi.
My name is Carlos Madrigal, and I'm with McDonald's Corporation. Just here really to answer questions. The presentation was done by Ann. It's perfect. We've met, so you know, we did meet with the Washington Square. The letter of support is there, and I think we did most of our homework during that time. So I'm basically just here to answer questions.
Any questions of the applicant? I would just like to say that I appreciate that you met with the neighborhood, because I know that a lot of times that is a concern, especially when you're adjacent to residential. So we appreciate that effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions? Then sit down.
No questions.
Thank you.
Okay, so now the public hearing is officially closed. We'll bring it back. Have any comments or motion? Commissioner Alderete?
I mean, unless folks have comments, I'll just make a motion.
I see none.
Okay, so I'll move that we adopt a resolution approving CUP number 2016-48 as condition, as well as variance number 2016-08 as condition.
I'm second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. Okay. We're going to move on to the item number 3, which is the public hearing, conditional use permit 2016-37.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners. This is an application on behalf of ATC Sequoia LLC for a renewal of an existing monopomp for CUP number 2016-37. As mentioned before, this is an existing monopomp, roughly about 60 feet high. No new panels or equipment or construction are being proposed at this time. As part of this application, the applicant is being required to replace all deteriorating fronds and restore the landscape and the antennas. Per the Santa Ana Municipal Code, antennas are required to be renewed every 10 years. So as you can see at the screen, this is a subject description. The current property is zoned under SD 85 or specific development 85, also known as McFadden Place. It's surrounded by industrial uses to the north and west, by the Costa Mesa Freeway to the east, and the Santa Ana Auto Mall to the south. This is an existing site plan. As shown, the current facility is located at the southeast corner of the property. And this is just an enlarged site plan showing the existing layout of the facility. It's currently surrounded by two mature palm trees and some equipment, and it is gated. This is the site photo. As you can see, it is gated by a 6-foot-high wrought iron fence, surrounded by some landscaping. As part of the application, the city is requiring that the applicant replace some of the deteriorating fronds and repaint the antennas as they have faded over the years. As previously mentioned, it does require CUP renewal to allow the antenna to continue to be entitled for an additional 10 years. To ensure that the property or the facility will remain in good condition, as mentioned earlier, we are requesting that the applicant replace all deteriorating fronds, restore the landscape, and repaint the antennas a darker green to match the surrounding landscape or the surrounding fronds of the mature palm trees. As conditioned, this facility will meet all of the city of Santa Ana standards. Staff is recommending that the Plan Commission approve CUP number 2016-27 as conditioned. That concludes my presentation. Just wanted to make a quick note under resolution for this item. The staff did add some additional changes to Section 1A. Those changes basically refer as during a group applicant representing ATC Sequoia LLC is requesting approval of conditional use permit number 2016-37 to renew the entitlements of a 60-foot-high monopole major wireless communications facility located at 1441 South Village. We basically added the representing ATTC LLC Sequoia to the resolution. In addition to that, we added subsection H, which reads, in accordance with the California Building Code Section 3108, the subject telecommunications facility will be designed, constructed, and or maintained in accordance with the provisions of TIA-222, which is a set of national recognized standards for the reconstructions of telecommunications and broadcast towers. That concludes my presentation. I'll feel free to answer any questions.
Any questions, Commissioner Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I'm looking at the material that staff provided us, it looks like the fronds, right? Am I saying that, fronds?
Correct.
The fronds are extending beyond the antennas.
That's correct.
Now I look at the picture, it looks more like a mullet. Looks like the antennas are sticking out farther than the fronds. So is that going to change?
That's correct. I did speak to the applicant, and we did mention that all the deteriorating fronds should be replaced with fuller fronds, and they've agreed to that.
So they will be. So this is going to be accurate then?
Correct. The fronds will be fuller.
Okay, thank you.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. Anything else, Commissioner Alderaan?
I just had one. It's a 10-year
Renewal.
So what's the mechanism to improve, if it gets deteriorated for whatever reason, to fix the fronds in that 10-year period? Is it just do a code enforcement or?
That's correct. The current facility is being conditioned. It needs to be maintained as is being approved. So in any instance within those 10 years, some of the fronds are deteriorated, we'll be forwarding that to code enforcement.
there's no other questions, then we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing, and have a speaker card, I believe is representing the applicant Arvin. I'm sorry if I mispronounced. Norouzi?
Norouzi, that's
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
Madam Chair and members of the commission, my name is Arvin Norouzi. As Madam Chair mentioned, I'm here representing the applicant, ATC Sequoia LLC, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of staff?
Nope.
So just want to make sure that, so all the conditions that have been proposed are agreeable?
They're acceptable, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back for any comments, or I'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Alderman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to propose what we adopt a resolution approving CUP number 2016-37 as conditioned.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries on item number 3. So moving right along, we're going to go on to public hearing. Item number 4, public hearing for variance number 2016-09.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Commission. Before you tonight is an application for a sign variance for an existing mobile service station located at 1351 East Dyer Road. And the application is variance number 2016-9. A little bit about the project. The overall project is to remodel and expand an existing service station. The applicant is requesting approval to allow an existing freestanding sign to remain, and I will show you where it's located when we get to the site plan. Application requires approval of a variance from several development standards of the sign code. Those development standards are included in your staff report and are highlighted in a shade of color. As you can see, the site is located at the center of the screen where the arrow is pointing south. It is an industrial zone, M1, and is surrounded by industrial and commercial uses such as hotels and clean industrial uses to the west. The southeast is where the Costa Mesa Freeway is, and we're looking at Dyer Road going horizontal on the screen and Grand kind of slanting down towards the south. This is the proposed site plan of the improvements. This is including all the site improvements. Some of them are landscaping and parking improvements as well. And a small addition will be done or constructed to the existing convenience store, where it's approximately a little bit over the 100 square feet, and this is just to facilitate the layout of the convenience store. The ADA stalls will be located closer to the front entrance. And all that is done through ministerial plan check. The star on the top right is indicating where the existing freestanding pylon sign is located. And there's a small 3D view on the bottom of the right there where you can see the site after the improvements are proposed. These are a few site photos. The first one is looking northwest on the intersection of Grand Avenue and Dyer. As you can see, the mobile sign is just to the right under those two palm trees. And then the lower image is actually a street image from the south 55 freeway heading south. As you can see, it's almost at the same grade or elevation as the grade of the freeway. And the project analysis for you. So the existing service station and the sign had been there since 1968. A little bit about that is that the sign allows the visibility of the service station from the elevated freeway grade and also the off-ramp to Dyer. Granting the variance would allow the property owner and the business owner the ability to preserve substantial property rights that they've had since the construction of the service station. And allowing the sign to remain will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the surrounding property, since they are similar, and it's servicing the area and the hotels. And with that, staff recommends approval of variance number 2016-9 as conditioned. This concludes my presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff? Commissioner Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So is the shape of the sign or the size of the sign changing at all?
No, as conditioned at the end of the staff report, conditions of approval. Number 2 is basically a condition, just like any other non-conforming signs in our code, that you cannot alter the structure of the sign. You can replace the sign face. That's not changing the structure of the sign, it's just replacing it, maybe updating or rebranding in a case. So that condition will stay.
So the height is the same, the frame is the same,
Everything will remain the same.
and it was permitted when it was built.
Yes.
So I guess my question, I wish I would have had a chance to talk earlier, I haven't. As far as why is this before us as a variance? Because if they're doing construction on the convenience store portion, the sign's not being touched, the sign's not being altered, it was previously permitted. I guess I'm just not clear as to where a sign that was legally permitted and constructed is now being subject to a variance.
Right. In our code for nonconforming uses or buildings, whenever a property is expanded or developed upon, there are certain conditions that you have to bring into closer compliance. One of those is the signs on the property. So this sign by itself, yes, it was constructed and approved by whatever the code read at the time in 1968. But to current standards, the sign would not be allowed because it exceeds the height. It's also placed closer to the property line than we would allow to today's standards. So that's why the variance is being requested of the applicant to maintain the sign as it is. The only reason, like I said, that this specific sign is being brought into as an application for a variance is that with the non-conforming code, the requirements do ask the property to be brought into closer compliance, and that includes the signs. Okay. All the other signs that are being proposed will meet all code requirements.
Okay. Surprised you didn't just ask for a higher sign then. If I was stuck with the variance, I'd go higher, but that's just me. Then the one other thing is on the perimeter walls on the site, currently when I drove by, I saw ivy along there. I know we're talking about the sign, but on the renderings here, I see just a very blank wall. Will ivy be required along those along the walls on the interior of the perimeter wall?
And good question. Actually, part of the conditions of approval is for the tenant to submit a formal landscape plan, and we do require ivy and some sort of tier landscaping when there is a property line or a wall constructed on the property line. So we will have we will review that when the submittal is brought in, and since we kind of follow that direction, it'll most likely be requested of the applicant.
My only other question / comment is in that corner from the preliminary landscape plan, I saw like a tree or shrub or something back there. And in driving through that area, sometimes there are some folks that may take advantage of the secluded area back there. So I guess I just would like to, throw out there or suggest that maybe that the landscaping back there not be too lush, that it would allow for someone to camp out or something.
That is definitely something we can consider and communicate with the applicant. And since there are drought-tolerant requirements for landscaping, we can work with them to have shorter landscaping or shorter shrubs in that area.
Perfect. Thank you.
Ivan, so this is part of a remodel, or there's some new construction that's going on the business site?
Yes. So the service station, the convenience store, will be expanded slightly by 100 and so square feet. I don't have the actual plans with me. But part of the requirement, it's only 10% of the existing square footage. So our code does require that everything be, as far as the parking and the signage, to be brought up to code.
And we don't expect that on that project that there's going to be any need for any kind of discretionary action?
No, that'll all be done over the counter. It doesn't require any additional approvals.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Not? Okay, thank you. And we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for variance 2016-09.
Hello, good evening. My name is Ulysses Araujo. I represent Dyer Development. And thank you again for listening to our request. Our clients are very excited to renew the gas station, to make something newer for the access to Santa Ana. And trying to answer to your questions, there was a purpose for the renders when I developed them, not to show the ivy, because we have these ramps going on the side, accessing the hotel, and in order to to show that there were ramps, we removed it. If we put the greenish, you may think it's only green. But yes, we are fully aware of all the requirements for the landscape. Our clients, they are very proud to keep the site safe. And we were discussing all the materials we're going to use, like even some of the planting materials, they have thorns. The police department in several cities recommend that so people, they don't hide. And so we are going, by the time we submit the plans, we will be in full compliance. But if you have any other question, I'm here to answer it.
Are there any questions of the applicant? Sir, if I could just ask you to fill out a speaker card. Does you need to fill out a speaker card?
Sure.
As the applicant, if he was representing the applicant, would he need to? Okay. Thank you, sir. If there's no other speakers, then we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Any questions, any comments? Commissioner Becerra?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we adopt a resolution approving variance number 2016-09 as conditioned.
Second.
I have a motion for Commissioner Becerra and a second from Commissioner McLaughlin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 5, which is a public hearing for a general plan amendment number 2016-03 and amendment application 2016-03.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners. This is an application for a general plan amendment and a zone change amendment to allow a park at the corner of Raitt and Myrtle Street. The applicant is the Parks and Recreational and Community Services Agency is requesting approval of a general plan amendment and a zone change on 2 properties to facilitate the future construction of a public park. So the current general plan of these 2 properties is low residential, and what is being proposed for the general plan is open space. The existing zoning for this property is single-family residential, and we are proposing open land space. As of today, the Parks and Recreational and Community Services Agency has not conducted any community meetings. These community meetings will precede this meeting, and I believe they're going to be starting sometime in May of 2017. And basically, these meetings will be community meetings in order to get input of the park designs, as well as how they're going to process technical studies or geotechnical studies or whatnot. Just wanted to clarify that at this time there is no park being proposed. This is strictly a general plan amendment and a zone change amendment. So the subject part is currently located at the northeast corner of Raitt and Myrtle. These are 2 properties. The surrounding uses to the north are multifamily. To the east, south, and west we have single-family residential. And the 2 lots roughly measure about 45,911 square feet or 1.1 acres. This is just a site photo or site photos of the property. They're currently vacant. Just to give you a quick background of the properties, in the late 1920s, the properties were built with single-family homes. These single-family homes were then demolished sometime in 2006. At that time, city did verify that these properties were not historical or had any historical value. And then just going back a little bit and giving you a history of the ownership of these properties. These properties were currently owned by the redevelopment agency. As the disposition of the redevelopment agency, they were then transferred to the housing authority, who had plans to build housing. In 2015, roughly, the city decided to go ahead and transfer these properties to the community development agency in order to build a park at this location. So just the next steps, as of today, we believe that the community meetings will start sometime mid of this year, and they will continue roughly about 2 years. After that, obviously, park designs and any technical studies will be handled by the Parks and Recreational Agency. And then construction time or anticipated construction time for the park, it's anywhere between 2019 to 2020. Just to kind of give you another brief and determine what we're asking for. This is just a general plan amendment and a zone change amendment. The project is consistent with the city's open space, parks, and recreation element, Goal 1, of providing sufficient open space to meet the recreation and aesthetic needs of the community. And it is also consistent with Land Use Element Group 1, which promotes for a providing sufficient open space to meet the recreational and aesthetic needs of the community. Furthermore, the land use element goal, which promotes for a balance in land use to address basic community needs, and policy 1.7, which calls for the support of open space in underserved areas such as a project site. In addition to that, the project will provide the opportunity for the people to have an area to recreate. It will also bring people together, as studies have shown that parks tend to impact the community in terms of building a support system. It will also improve the overall health and social health of this neighborhood, and it will promote the conservancy of values of clean water, air, and land. At this time, staff is recommending that the Plan Commission recommend to the City Council approval of GPA number 2016-03 and approve amendment application number 2016-03.
Madam Chairwoman, before Jerry completes his report, I'd like to add something to make it very clear. In the next steps section, it stated that the next steps it would be going to the Parks and Recreation Commission. It will go to the City Council, and the discretionary action for funding will be at the City Council's authority and provision. And I need to clarify that because for CEQA purposes. If you have any questions, please direct them to Jerry, though.
That concludes my presentation.
Thanks, Jerry. Commissioner Contreras-Leal?
Yes. Can you give me a little history and tell me why the homes were demolished?
The homes were believed were demolished in 2006. I'm not too familiar as to why they were demolished, but I do believe that in 2015, we did lose some park space to the community college district. And in order to allocate the need of open space, the city designated this particular area as a park, and there was another park in the area. We just can't remember which one it was. But it was two subject properties that the city wanted to propose parks.
Okay, I would like to find out why they were demolished. And then also, kind of find out the distance, because on Rate there is a park, and now that the school there, Valley, remodeled, and I believe that's open space, and they have a exercise area. It's not very far in walking distance, so I just had those questions, and some of my concerns about designating it now to be only open space and not looking into why not add more housing is a concern to me. Creating a park space there, to me, with the times that we're in right now, unfortunately, and the neighborhood being that it's a very high crime area, invites more trouble. To me, the homeless is a huge issue, and that would be a new place to make it a home for some folks. I see it all the time. Bus stops now are homes for the homeless, and this would invite that. Right now, the residents of that area do not have a concern if their kids are playing outside, but at a park, the potential is there for gangbangers to hang out, drug dealing, and other situations that can arise. Now, the families there have other concerns. It invites other happenings. So those are my major concerns right now. And before labeling it open space and not being able to look at other alternatives, Habitat for Humanity is doing a great job at the corner of Warner and Flower, where they took a much smaller space and are building homes on it, which I think is also a great necessity in our city. So those are my concerns.
Thank you. Commissioner Alderman?
Yeah, I share some of those concerns, but one of them is we're kind of making this general amendment and amendment application considering this when then we're going to take it to the community. And that seems a little bit inconsistent. We should go to the community, hear what they want. And I understand that there probably isn't a neighborhood in Santa Ana that isn't, I don't like using double negatives, but park poor. But there's also plenty of neighborhoods in Santa Ana that are affordable housing poor, not dilapidated housing, but affordable housing. And a 1.1 acre site is rare to find in Santa Ana. And I think perhaps we could consider a combination of affordable housing and a park, or, you know, it doesn't have to be all of one. But right now, just as I sit here, it seems you got to balance the needs of the community, right? And I don't know which needs are greater, but I could guess that it's probably affordable housing.
Madam Chair, could I interrupt here? At this point, we're getting beyond questions to staff. Could we open the public hearing?
And then bring it back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had also, I wanted to also talk about this. Any other questions for Jerry? Okay, then we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing for item number 5. Is there anybody in the public that would wish to speak? There's none out there. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back. Commissioner Alderete, were you?
Yeah, no, I mean, that was generally it. It just seems we're determining that this is what's needed. And if I'm wrong about this, that it should be a park, and if the community's spoken to that, well, that's important to know. But if we're changing the land use designation of it in anticipation that this is what the community wants, then that's problematic for me.
Also, isn't this, Jerry, you had made a comment about this, and I think this is why we're doing this, why it is being rezoned, is do we have some kind of obligation to designate open space because of the Centennial College site that's over at the Centennial Park?
Yes.
Isn't this a trade-off for that?
This is the park swap.
So we have to use it as...
We're obligated to designate open
additional
space,
lands
open
for
space
park.
to make up for where the college is at Centennial
This is
Park.
one
And
This is
one
a site.
potential site.
It fits,
Okay,
it fits the
potential
acreage needs.
So what that means is, if we didn't change zone on this, we would still have to find a parcel in the city that would meet the open space requirements for that swap. Whether it's this one or something else, we are obligated to do that.
So how do we balance that with the RENA numbers that we have to hit? Right, so that's the question.
Well, what is the obligation? Where does the obligation come from?
The obligation is that the Centennial Park,
It's supposed to be a park.
right now, it's a state park, it's a federal state park. And the Centennial Continuing Education Center that's on Centennial Park has, I believe, 2 years left on its second 5-year term. It had a 30-year term, then they tried to get a 10-year term, and it was broken into 2 5s. And now it's on the second 5, and I believe they've got 2 years left to either find a suitable piece of land that could be traded off as parkland to the federal government, okay? And then Centennial can continue to be
On that site.
on that site. If they can't, in 2 years, then Centennial shuts down and basically...
Goes back to a park.
It goes back to a park. Centennial is a park, yeah.
I mean, so is this going to become a federal park here on Rate?
Well,
I mean, because that's what it sounds like. If we're fulfilling a federal obligation, I just
Well,
want to be
it
clear
was-
on what we're fulfilling.
It was monies that were funded for creating the park, is my understanding of it. It was the
So it's
funding
not-
source for Centennial Park. And then the feds came and were monitoring our park program and said, well, there's a school on this site.
Okay.
So it's
And-
not being used just for recreational purposes.
Correct. Okay, so it's more based on the funding then at this point, not, but there's ties to it.
But Godinez is also in Centennial Park.
and it is also an education. And the park was actually, when they earmarked it many years ago, it was earmarked, I believe, to have an education element to it. It didn't necessarily describe what that element was, but I believe there was an education element.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that no one from Parks and Rec, who's the applicant here, is here today. So we could always continue the matter to have someone from Parks that could give you the full
Right.
explanation if that's what you desire.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this discussion is, twofold, because, here was people talking about building homes, yet the reality of it is that the purpose of what we're trying to do is to achieve something for land trade-off with Centennial Education Center.
But if you read the report, you're not.
I'm
Yeah, okay.
I'm, not-
All right.
I'm agreed.
Yeah, okay.
I'm agreed. I'm saying it's not telling us that that's the purpose. I mean, yes, the purpose is to get a park and green space, and I believe, we are, as Eric said, green space poor. And the fact of the matter is that although, if we look at this particular opportunity, it's also to keep Centennial, and the campus. And one of the problems that Santa Ana College has at this point in time is they've taken away all of their continuing education sites around the city, and Centennial is the only one left. And so, I mean, from that standpoint, I think we have to look at that aspect and go back and say, okay, what are we really trying to achieve here? That's my take.
So I have a question, and I should have asked this earlier. So was there any outreach to the community? In other words, I know that there's, it says in our report that you guys are going to go, or I'm sorry, the city will go back out, which would be Parks and Rec staff. But was there any meetings prior to that where Parks and Rec said, we've got at least some preliminary feedback, we feel comfortable going forward with the park here? Because, I mean, from what some of my colleagues are saying, you would think from the discussion here that there's actually people who would not want to park there, or at least not want the full size of this parcel. So was there even just a little bit of preliminary discussion with the community, even if it was just a neighborhood association meeting, just something?
I'm not sure if in 2015 there was any community meeting with the transfer of land.
I'm not talking about just the obligation with Centennial. I'm just talking about folks within 500 feet, 1,000 feet of this particular site.
Correct. So
Whether it was the neighborhood association or whatever group, was there some sort of discussion, even if it was just what do you guys think about parks? Yes. Okay, moving on. Was there something?
Right. To my knowledge, I don't think Parks and Recs had actually done the community meetings as of today.
Mm-hmm.
We did send out notices, and I did get two phone calls this week or today, and they were in opposition of the park. But I'm not sure when in 2015, when the transfer of land happened, not sure if there was any type of community meeting involved for that transfer of land in terms of being used for park space.
Okay. I do appreciate that this is coming ahead, because I think there's some cases where we get stuff where, staff is telling us you've got like 5 minutes to approve this thing, or, something self-destructs, where here we actually have got some time for it, but there seems to be some contention, so, or at least some concern about it. But I would definitely be curious to find out what led to the point. I mean, not so much the transfer per se, but just community sentiment about it. The fact that you received 2 phone calls, I mean, that's something, but I mean, nobody's here tonight opposing it. But again, I would just like a better picture of what's going on in the community.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Unwin.
May I propose that we should continue this matter for the next meeting? So the applicant in this matter is the Park and Rec, and they should be here to able to answer any question that we may have, and able to clear everything.
Commissioner, I've got a request from Commissioner McLaughlin.
Okay, 2 questions. I mean, one thing to point out is that, I mean, in all due respect, the neighborhood associations surrounding Centennial Park are not enthusiastic about the continuing education center that's on the Centennial Park land. So, that's a contention that's existing and continues to exist. But is this anything to do with the dissolution of the
Yes.
redevelopment?
It was formerly owned by the redevelopment.
Right.
Right.
Which also ties back to education and ties somewhat back to education and what they could get from the dissolution of the redevelopment.
Right.
Okay,
So
so,
the
I mean,
form
I
of
think that has to
agency
be understood too, because that's just a clump of data. It's a mess. Thank you. A clump of data mess. I mean, but that has to, I think we have to be a little more articulate on how and what we're trying to achieve here, and what are the agencies, shall we say, for lack of a better word, that are driving this particular process? Because obviously the dissolution, dissolving the redevelopment organization is part of this. Obviously, part of this is the federal government and state with regards to the park. So I think we got to tie this all together in a little bit neater package. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, we're still lacking green space, and we still need to do whatever we can do for green space. But this thing seems to be muddy right now. No offense to the presentation, but it just seems to be muddy.
Commissioner Contreras?
I agree, and to be able to make an educated recommendation, would like a little bit more on the history and understanding what is required in terms of education and parks and so forth, and hear about from the community as well before we make a decision that this piece of property is the best fit for this community, and to hear from them before I could even vote yes, let's designate it open space.
Commissioner Mendoza?
I just wanted to say I agree with Commissioner Becerra when he says, you know, we definitely need to go to the community. However, I don't know if it's something that we should vote on as commissioners or just let the council decide. I'm part of a group at KidWorks, and we're advocating for open space. And I have to disagree with Commissioner Contreras. When we build skate parks, we have a city of Long Beach that created skate parks. So we don't know if this is going to be a skate park or not, but you know, it isn't always a bad thing. You know, the crime rate went down by a lot. They've constructed like 13 skate parks. So as a member of the KidWorks committee, skate park committee, you know, we are advocating for open space, and not just one skate park, but hopefully 5, because we're lagging, you know, next to Long Beach and Anaheim and other cities. So I would really recommend that, you know, we do somehow go backwards and just take this to the community, you know, before we as commissioners take a vote.
Sure. Commissioner Becerra?
Just, you know, I was just real quickly thumbing through the staff report. Did we do any noticing to the surrounding folks regarding the general? Because I just didn't see it in here. Maybe I missed it.
We have a new staff format, and it's in the table. The last table in the staff report describes the noticing.
Okay, so we did 500 feet from the project site. Okay, and other with that noticing, all we've received thus far as a city is 2 phone calls.
That's correct. I only received 2 phone calls.
Okay, so we've done noticing. We've got 2 phone calls thus far. Okay. And by the way, I would say that we definitely as a commission, I mean, we're only making a recommendation to the city council. So, I mean, this to me definitely seems appropriate to be in front of us. But we've done the community outreach. We've only received 2 phone calls. My colleagues seem concerned that maybe there needs to be more. I'm open to that. But if we have done community outreach like we've done on any other project, any other general plan amendment or zone change, again, I can see the concerns from my colleagues, and I'm open at this point, but we have satisfied what we would need to move forward.
Commissioner Contreras?
Yes, I'd like to make a clarification. I did not say that the parks would be bad for that piece of property. I just have concerns and would like some questions answered prior and get all of the information to make the best choice what the community would like, whether it be a great fit, a park, or housing, whichever one, but at least have all of the information before I make a decision.
Lisa, so what legally could we conduct? Could the city conduct that before? I mean, is that more of a is that community outreach? Would that be more of what would you like to see, or the park or the housing, or before we would take up the?
You can make the zone change now without the community outreach. I mean, we've done the public noticing and everything you need to do.
Right.
With the concerns that have been raised here, I think it would be advantageous to have someone from Parks and Rec and someone from CDA to be here to explain the history of how we got to this point, answer why the houses were demolished, answer why this is chosen as the best lot. Are there other locations available, other city, former redevelopment agency city properties now that could be used for the same purpose? I think that would be advantageous for all of you to hear that. And then if you want to make a recommendation that Parks and Rec do some community outreach, that's up to you.
But we should probably have that.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Wynn's already made a motion.
Yes,
to
he
that
has.
effect. So we just need a second if we want to
Second.
continue. Okay.
So,
I just
Commissioner
had one,
Alderdi?
any report that, instead of having people come here and speak, which would be great, it'd also be great to have it written so that when we come here, we can have questions based off of the written that we get.
Right, I think
that's
that
in
this
the
staff
report.
report
Yeah.
was written for planning.
Yeah, right.
So it didn't have the complete history from CDA and Parks and
Yeah,
Rec for you.
thanks.
So we have a motion to continue this item. And a second.
Do we have a
But do we have a date?
date?
Do we have a specific?
Next meeting, will more convenient.
Is that enough time to pull everybody together?
30 days?
Or 30?
Yes, we could continue it to January 23rd, as long as the expectation is not that we will be going out and doing a public meetings. So as long as you're not interested in that, we could do it.
I would ask.
Is the maker of the motion, Commissioner Nguyen, is
like
that
the
your
motion to-
understanding, if we continue to the 23rd, that it would just be a staff presentation
That's
at that
correct.
time?
I would recommend the motion to continue this matter until the January 23rd, for the staff presentation, especially with the applicant, which is the Park and Rec here, could enable us to answer any concern we may have.
You okay with that? With Alpha?
We, at that time, then decided we wanted to do more community outreach.
Correct.
Actually,
Based on what the staff report is.
Madam Chair, if I may ask the maker of the motion, would you be also open to adding that we ask staff to contact neighborhood associations within 1,000 feet, representatives, to just let them know that this is, because it's something I think that you guys normally will contact a rep or two, but just to kind of go a little bit above and beyond given the concerns of this commission.
That we should like, yes.
Okay.
Will that be enough time, though, if we have to do any neighborhood outreach for 2 weeks?
CDA, and then this thing.
Can I just offer
Yes.
that the staff report indicates that staff already contacted two neighborhood representatives in that area. That's what we would like.
Within 500 feet, correct?
The neighborhood.
Went out to folks within 500 feet, but then the two most adjacent neighborhood associations were also contacted.
Okay.
And that they would extend beyond 1,000 feet of the site.
Would they?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
So I've got a motion to continue and a second to continue to the next meeting on January 3rd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will.
Can I just ask one question? I mean, just going back, the alley, you made a comment about the fact that you connected with the neighborhood leaders, but you didn't, but in essence, it wasn't a letter that was going out to all of the homes or apartments surrounding that facility, proposed facility, within 500 square feet.
No,
Is
they
that it?
were publicly noticed, 500 feet, right?
Yeah,
Everyone within 500 feet
Then they
was
respond to
noticed.
the two neighborhood associations as in addition to the notification.
And did they, did either of those neighborhood associations respond?
The neighborhood,
Central City Neighborhood Association and Casa Bonita.
Which are adjacent.
They're pretty active, especially Casa Bonita. Would we be able to get a Washington Square request what their position is?
They provided that to us. We didn't ask for their input. For the Washington
well,
Square.
well, we typically call them, and you spoke to the neighborhood leaders, correct?
To the Casa Bonita Neighborhood Association.
Right, and Central.
And
City.
Central as well?
Central was able to get hold of them.
You were unable to get a hold of them. Okay, so but you did provide them with notification of the and the first neighborhood association. Their response was the president of the first neighborhood association had no issues. So that was a definite response. Okay, thank you.
Okay, then we will reconvene on this one on the 23rd. Thank you.
Did we take a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Then before we leave this one, I just want to make sure so that we have covered all the items that are of concern with you. One, you want to have Parks and Recreation staff here to explain their plans for the property. Two, you want an explanation of the history of the project, including why the homes were demolished. Number three, you want an inventory of the lands that would be available also to satisfy the requirements for the land swap on the Centennial Park. And you would like additional contacts to be made to the neighborhood groups. Is that correct? Okay, thank you.
And did you cover the fact of the redevelopment side of it?
The history of it, including, yes,
Yeah.
I said the history of it, including the housing why the housings were demolished, and how the redevelopment agency.
The
Yeah.
dissolution of the
Okay.
redevelopment.
We can ask someone from CDA here.
Yeah,
We can
that's
ask them.
all. You know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So, thank you. So that concludes the business calendar. And Candida, I think you wanted to speak prior to our administrative matters?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to, on administrative matters, you have an election coming up, and you also have some appointments. We have some vacancies in our subcommittees, and we'd like for you to think about whether and how you want to participate. I would like to mention, though, sort of in conjunction with that the General Plan Advisory Committee invitations are going out this tonight, actually, to 3 planning commissioners. We will be asking Commissioner Mendoza, Commissioner Becerra, and Commissioner Nguyen to serve on that committee. So in terms of thinking about, and that commitment will be a once or twice monthly for the next 9 months to a year. So I want you to think about those. We'll be asking for alternates to those, to all of the chairs, to those positions. So I want you to think about it before you raise your hand to serve on a subcommittee or become the vice chair. So that's all I wanted to say. The subcommittees meet at, for those of you that have been on the subcommittees, we have 2 of them. We have the Planning and Zoning Committee, the Zoning and General Plan Committee, excuse me, is what it's called. We have 1 opening on that committee. Currently serving on the subcommittee are Commissioner Becerra and Commissioner McLaughlin. If you would like, but there is 1 opening. The second committee is the Design Review Committee, and we have 2 openings. Chair Verino serves on that committee at this time.
So those are the only 2.
There are 3 openings. One on the. Those are the only 3
subcommittees.
Subcommittees. Those are the only subcommittees at this time.
Could you tell me how many committee the commissioner should serve on?
It's at your discretion. It is at your discretion.
Okay, so the first item is the election of the vice chairperson. So I'll now take the selection of vice chairperson, and this would be for the remainder of the 2016-2017 term, which concludes in July.
July.
With the city's fiscal year. Okay, the floor is now open for nominations for vice chairperson.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Already?
I will, I'd like to move that we nominate Commissioner McLaughlin to be the vice chairperson for the remainder of the term.
Second.
Thank you. Do I have any other nominations? Okay. If there are no more nominations, the nominations are now closed. And Commissioner McLaughlin, will you accept that nomination?
Yes, I will.
Okay. So, all in favor of Commissioner McLaughlin for vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to talk about the appointments to the Planning Commission subcommittees. And as Candida just spoke, the first is the Design Review Board, and we need 2 people for that. And then the second is the General Plan and Zoning Ordinance Advisory Group. We need 1. So we need to nominate, and the same thing? Oh, kind of volunteer? Yeah. Like, we don't want to throw anybody else. You're like, you're going to do it, you're going to do it. So I have any volunteers to serve with me on the Design Review Board?
Madam Chair, I had one question of staff real quick. So, Candida, you'd mentioned for the general plan and zoning, myself and my 2 colleagues to my left and right. So I'm a little confused. If there's 3 of us, and unless Commissioner McLaughlin got demotion, I don't know what happened.
No. There's a separate committee. The subcommittee is the General Plan and Zoning Committee. That's what you, of the Planning Commission. We're starting the General Plan update, and as part of that program, we are asking 3 planning commissioners to serve on that group committee.
Okay.
You will be working in that capacity with 16 other members of the community from all different representations, some from community advocacy groups, business community. So there'll be a wide spectrum of people: housing advocates, housing
So
residents.
it's 2 separate groups. I just wanted to clarify.
2 separate groups.
Okay.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's why I asked the question a moment ago about these 2 councils. Are there any other ones? And yes, there was another. Correct?
Don't tell Mark.
Well, this
Well, I
one,
mean,
yeah, the one
you
she
know,
talked about
this-
earlier, the General Plan Advisory Committee.
Right, I mean,
Yeah.
the other side of the
But
coin
that's-
is, you know, kind of a different situation. I mean, from the standpoint of these different committees that we're talking about, people are volunteering, yet on the one that you're talking about now, it appears that it's not a volunteer situation, it's a
Invitation.
Invitation only.
It's all good.
Candida, could you explain to me what the commitment on this subcommittee, how many meetings and so on, activity required?
They meet on an as-needed basis. So in the past, I think we've had 2 or 3 of each of the committees. We anticipate that the subcommittee for the Planning and Zoning Committee is going to be more active because we have a number of zoning changes in terms of reformatting the code, as well as the general plan update. So if you're pressed for time, you may want to serve on the design committee. But that's also an interesting committee, because that's the committee that when we're working with applicants and staff can't get anywhere with them in terms of, we tell them, we work with them we'll meet with them several times and explain to them how their project is not meeting the standards that the city has set for projects. We'll often tell them, listen, you have this option. You're not listening, you're not hearing it from us. You can go to this subcommittee and you can present your application to them, your design to them, and you'll get a feel for what the Planning Commission will say. And I know we've brought two two projects before, and both of them we got very clear direction from the subcommittee, and it changed and improved the designs of the project. So it's a very important subcommittee as well.
And is the plan still? I know Ken, in the past when we the subcommittee convened, it was like right before Planning Commission, so we were able to meet beforehand, and then from there we just went over to the Planning Commission meeting. Is the plan still to do that, to coordinate them so that they're in like adjacent, or
If that is the most convenient for the people that are serving on the committee, we're willing
so
to
we'll
be
do a
flexible in
consensus.
terms of the time for those meetings to accommodate whoever's on the commissioners that are serving on the committee's schedules.
so that worked for the three of us that served on design to do it before. But if not, I guess it could be a consensus of whoever's serving.
Right. We had talked about having early morning meetings at one point, but it seemed in the past, it seemed most convenient for them to be an hour ahead of the regular Planning Commission meetings.
I would volunteer for design review committee.
Okay, thank you. So I have
Thank you.
Commissioner Nguyen, who is volunteering, and Commissioner Contreras-Leo, who is volunteered to serve with me on design. So there's our three. Good. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So
Sheldon.
Commissioner McLaughlin asked about this other commission that's not listed here. Can I want to know a little bit more about this commission and how this election occurred.
The Commission for the General Plan
Yes.
update. There was a concerted effort to come up with a group of individuals that represented a variety of segments of the community. And it was we did advocate for having a number of planning commissioners represented on the committee. Other commissions have only one representative on it. And so the list was developed through internal staff meetings and contacts with representatives from the different agencies that were involved within the city. And we got our directions from there.
For me, I mean, I don't have time to serve on any of these subcommittees, but that's usually, I'm not familiar with it being done that way. Usually the commission appoints people to a subcommittee, if that's going to be the case, and then folks get to hash out what they want. This just seems sort of out of the ordinary. That's really my only comment.
Mm-hmm.
If folks have an issue with it, I do, I'll be honest. But I'm not really that concerned with who's on it and who's not. Because it isn't going to be me. So, I mean, quite honestly, but I wonder, we've got another new commissioner, Contreras, and we have Ken Nguyen. We've got we have other people that may want to be on it, and that's just, hopefully they have the time to do it. That's really, again, it's not to besmirch them at all. It's just more at the process. So that's my only comment.
Thank you. Do we have any volunteers for the General Plan and Zoning Ordinance Advisory Subcommittee? Right now, I believe, Phil, you're on it, and Eric, you're Commissioner
Phil and I.
McLaughlin. So, anyone else? And you
I'll
could
volunteer.
Commissioner Mendoza?
I volunteer.
Okay, very good. Very good. And so subcommittees are determined. Does anybody else want to speak on the General Plan Advisory Committee? Do you have any concerns?
Well, I mean, I have the same concern. I mean, it seems as though, the process is a little bit, selective in many respects. I mean, it's like, how is it that certain individuals got selected versus other individuals? Because what other groups inputted?
It was we needed to have representatives that from all of these segments of the community, and that was the approach that was taken, and it was a subcommittee that involved all the agencies within within the city, and so that was how they were selected, including the city manager's office. So that was how they were selected.
Commissioner Contreras?
I echo both Mr. Albrighty and Mr. McLaughlin's sentiment, because by saying something like that, I believe everyone here has been placed on this commission because they represent. It's a good mixture of representation of the residents. So it's still not telling us exactly how folks were selected. I think it's great invitations went out, and we support that, but overall, as a commission, apparently it seems when these appointments are going to be taking place, it's a vote that the commission takes, and they get to decide amongst themselves how their role is going to be versus doing an invitation. And I hope you can see from that side maybe perhaps a divisive feeling that might create as to not understanding why the process happened and why perhaps the commission was not notified that this new process was going to take place, or it's not even on the agenda. The name of the...
Well, it's not an action for the commission to take.
Right.
None of the other, I mean, that...
But it involves the commission.
Right.
We also couldn't have more than 3
We-
members from the planning commission because of the Brown Act.
Because of the Brown Act. Right.
I mean, they could have asked you for who volunteered or wanted to serve, and I guess that wasn't done, but I understand what your comments are also.
Yeah, we do understand, but that was the process that was taken. And if that, I apologize if that has made you uncomfortable. If your fellow members of the, it is, there will be a lot of meetings that you will be able to be involved with. The meetings are public, but we needed to have a limited number of voting members on the General Plan Advisory Group.
So technically, you're not involved in them. You're you're viewing them because you don't have a vote. You're not involved in it.
You do have a vote as a planning commissioner.
It'll come back to
It will come to you.
back.
This is,
changes
the general
to the
plan will
advisory
come to you.
group.
This is an advisory group of citizens, and it needs to represent citizens. So
So it's after
it is before it comes
Before
to
it comes
you. You will be, they will do their work, setting forth general policies of the citizens of the city, and then you as representatives of the city in your role as commissioners are going to make a recommendation on this general plan. And there will be multiple presentations. It will come to you. Typically, it comes to the Planning Commission probably in 3 or 4 segments. There's often joint workshops. We haven't gotten down to how we're going to go through the adoption. We haven't designed the adoption process just yet, but in many general plans that I've worked on, it starts out with a joint meeting between the Planning Commission and the City Council where everybody's together in a room. It's a workshop. We talk about the process. We set it forth. But this is your job. It's going to be your document. It's going to be what you are committed to for, and what the city is committed to for the next 25, 30 years. So like tonight, a general plan amendment came before you, and you took it seriously. You said, what is this? And it's important for you to take it seriously because this is the program for the future. Yes, we need to have some people representative on the citizens group, but this is a citizens group. And you are commissioners, and you are going to be the ones that are going to be taking action on it in terms of making a recommendation to the city council.
I won't beat a dead horse, but just a little bit. This is the first time I've seen a committee where the planning, where the chair and the vice chair weren't invited, just for the record, at least while I was chairman. while I've been on the commission. So, and the next question is, how many are on this committee? And what's the representation? Not gender, but just is it 30? Is it?
I believe it's like 25. There are 19 different segments of the community that are represented, and the Planning Commission is one of them. There's someone from Parks and Rec, there's someone from ETAC, there's someone from Transportation, there's someone from the housing community, there's someone from the mobile home community, there's someone from, goodness, you get the picture. There's business people, there's people in industry. There's also education. There's someone from Santa Ana Unified as well as the college. It's everybody in the community.
Sort of like the city manager search. They did a community group. I think it was about 20-something people.
Probably very similar.
Same stakeholders. Yeah. Okay.
That's good. Stakeholders.
Yeah. It's my bureaucracy.
Okay.
But the difference is you're going to.
This
is coming to you. This is your plan, and they're going to be making recommendations to you.
Right. Got it.
Okay. And we're going to move on to item number 8, which is excused absences, which there's none. And then, so we'll move on to 9, planning manager updates.
Well, the first thing on my list is the general plan update status and the completion of the outreach to the general plan citizens advisory committee, I guess is probably a better term for it, although we are calling it the GPAG. I also wanted to give you an update on the accessory dwelling unit ordinance. Tonight, as we speak, or probably before we speak, one of our planners, we've designed an outreach program and to go out to the community with options on the designing a compliant accessory dwelling unit ordinance. As you know, as of January 1st, we no longer have an accessory dwelling unit ordinance. We're falling back on the states, and through that process, we've lost a lot of control. So the idea is to do public outreach. Tonight, we're meeting with the board of Comlink and extending the first outreach to them and offering to do neighbor meetings with the individual neighborhood associations. So if any of you are involved with your neighborhood association, please contact them, and we would be willing to be at whatever kind of meeting they needed to have. The outreach program is going to last from now until January 17th, I guess is our kicked-off date, till probably the end of March. So we're hoping to get in as many meetings as possible. There will be a location on our website which will answer questions and document the process as we go along. Right now, we're finishing up a series. For those, I think Commissioner Becerra was the only person that was there from the commission that was at the actual public meeting that we had, but there were a number of questions and comments that were raised at that meeting, and we are going through and providing responses to all of those questions and comments, and they will be posted on this portion of our website, which will be in the planning directory and underneath our upcoming projects. So that's going to be, that's coming up. That's one of the things that we're working on right now. As you may have noticed in this last packet, we are coming up with new staff report formats. The goal of them is to make them easier to read and to be more thorough. They are still being refined. The idea is to consolidate really the detail on what's around it, what's there, how does it meet the code, does it not meet the code, and then to have the real text be an analysis of the issues that are associated with it. And we're hoping that's going to work better for you, and we're hoping it's going to work better for us as well. So that was if you have any comments on it, please let me know. I'd be happy. We'll be happy to work those in. But we'd like to have things in a very clear graphical format that makes it easier for everyone to read and understand. The final thing I wanted to talk to you about is we distributed today some information about this Planning Commission Academy, and it's a 3-day commitment. And I know you're all busy people, you're all working and have a lot to do. So I don't know if you're interested or able in attending the whole academy, but we'd really like for you to participate in what you can. And I'm going to advocate for Thursday. Because Thursday is the day that's really jam-packed full of stuff. So if you can work into your schedule to at least do one day, please think about trying to make it on Thursday. Friday seems like it's sort of the Brown Act training that you've had through our legal department and some of our legal stuff, and Friday is the last conference day, which are usually wrap-ups. But please, if you're available to do it, we would love for you to attend. So let us know.
Is there a fee associated with it?
Yes, there's a fee, but not for you. Not for you. Yeah. Okay.
Kenny, I would like to sign up for this the workshop.
Okay.
For Thursday and Friday.
For Thursday and Friday. All right, thank you.
The backside is the first, when you open it, is that a continuation of the first?
I'm not sure. Oh, the copy
yeah.
came out strange. Yes.
I just want to be sure
Yes.
that-
It's like, it's supposed to be like this. You see, it's supposed to be put together like this.
Oh, yeah.
Happy to do this. Okay.
Thursday, Friday on the back. Oh, wait.
It's a puzzle.
It's a puzzle.
It's origami.
Yeah, it's a puzzle.
Tomorrow morning when you're fresh.
So here, fold each page and put this one first.
They do have numbers at the bottom, so that helps.
Yes. That concludes staff's comments.
Thank you. So we'll move on to Planning Commissioner comments. I'll start on my left. Commissioner Nguyen, have any comments?
Yes, I do. I would like to put possible an agenda type the recent bill that passed the state of California, AB 2299, secondary resident use in our city, and how the effective that bill to our city building code and resident. Thank you. And also, it is my honor to serve on our Planning Commission. I would like to seek for advice and guidance. I mean, may need to come along. I would like all your help, especially all the staff member, and I would like to possible to be able to continue to better serve the city and the resident.
I suppose I should have used the technical term when I was talking about the accessory dwelling unit ordinance. That is AB 2299. So you used the technical term. I used our conventional language.
Commissioner Becerra?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year and welcome our two new colleagues. That's pretty much it for me. Thank you.
Commissioner Mendoza?
Same thing, just want to welcome Cynthia and Mr. Wynn. Thank you.
Commissioner Alderete?
The same. Welcome, both of you, and look forward to working with you. And Commissioner Nguyen, I did attend the League of Cities Academy. I don't know, it must have been a few years ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and it was worthwhile. And I'm glad to see they still have the marijuana legalization as an agenda item. That was like the most well-attended one. And that's it. So, thanks.
Commissioner McLaughlin?
Again, welcome to Cynthia and to Ken, and thank you for your vote for Vice Chair, and Happy New Year, and take it from there. I do have one question, though. On the accessory dwelling discussion, you say you're going to have it, you started with Comlink tonight, is that what I understand?
We are doing outreach to Comlink tonight. We're asking them to approach their neighborhood groups and get them involved in the program. And we will be using neighborhood improvement programs, their networking tool to put out the word that we're interested in public comments. So anyone that would like us to make a presentation or at their meeting to discuss that, we would love to hear their comments on it.
One other thing, you mentioned that we lost control of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yes, the state took it over, but until somebody applies for it, we really haven't lost anything. And, I mean, I guess the question really is, during this period of review and everything else, it might be helpful to understand from the Planning Commission point of view, how many applications have we received? Because when we had this discussion 2 or 3 months ago, we established that over 10 years, we've had 29 or 40, I forget.
It was 34, yeah.
What?
34.
34 over a 10-year period. I mean, I think we've lost control over it because I don't think we have people putting permits in to do these kinds of, second dwellings. That's where we've lost the control. But the fact is, doing it legally and doing it, straightforward, I mean, how many are we going to lose control over the next 2 to 3 months as we're reviewing this process? I think that would be something to be helpful and understand.
We will keep you informed. We had, I think the reason that we were very concerned about it as staff is that we had a number of people come to the counter and say to us, that come January 1st, I can build this. And so, they have to get a building permit, but we can't. We have no standards for that. They only have to meet the state standards. They don't have to meet any supplemental standards that we have. And previously, we did have some fairly strict standards that were based on park needs, on where you could locate, and that's probably why we only had 34, was because you had to go through you had to meet the standards if you were in a park deficient area, and that was most of the city, or not most, but I would say a good portion of the city was designated as a park deficient area, and so we had additional controls over proposals in that area.
Commissioner Contreras?
Thank you for the warm welcome from everybody, and hello to staff. Look forward to getting to know and remembering your names. I'll remember your face, but you're getting tougher with age. And is there a possibility that whatever meetings come out of Comlink, where they do want a presentation, that we can be notified? So if we have some time to go listen in, we can go do that when you make the presentations to the neighborhood associations?
We can notify you. I don't know how many of them there are going to be, but we can try to keep you in touch. I will. Let me think about what the best way to do that is. Yes. Okay.
Especially when our neighborhood association is
right.
the surrounding one.
Okay, thank you.
And I as well want to welcome Cynthia and Ken to the commission. This is not usually normal that we meet in here, so so for your first meeting, don't think it'll be like this. We'll be in the dais, and I can see all of you when we're on the dais. So it's a little bit difficult, but thank you for helping me through it over here today. And I also wanted to say Happy New Year and thank you to staff for all of your patience with us trying to get through today in our accommodations. And I guess we are going to, before we adjourn, I would just like to adjourn in the memory of our colleague, Commissioner Nolly, that passed away. And he received a proclamation back in July, and it says a lot about him as a planning commissioner. And just maybe for the new commissioners, Sandy Nolly served on the planning commission for 14 years. Same time span as James Gardner, but some of it was overlapped and some wasn't, because I served with Sandy in my first stint with planning commission in the late 90s and early 2000. And so then I came back to the planning commission, and Sandy was here and hadn't changed at all. Still the same old Sandy, which I appreciated, because I understand. I always understood or got to know what he was all about and where he was coming from, and he had his love of the city and what his intentions were. So all these things that we said in the proclamation about his strong commitment to the residents and business community are completely spot on. And I just wanted to adjourn in his memory this meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you.